Welcome back. Our last event was the New Orleans Poetry Fest. And you know, we're all got a little hangover from that one, but we're here now. So Bernardo Wade is going to come up here. Before he does, let's say a few words about him. Bernardo likes to say he tries at poems. Not only does he try at poems, but the poems try. They attempt, they come to and up against, they try on ideas, realizations, judgments, perceptions. They try, they work hard, and they finish. After catching a few bodies and elbows, the poems earn the basket. But these narrative meditations aren't buzzer beaters where we dap and go home afterwards. There's the hustle back to the other end of the court where the reader, huffing and sweating, has to move and run with the insight, has to accede to the lived realities and its interpretations. These poems have been lived. Ed Roberson brings some clarity to what this means in a 2010 interview in Callaloo, when he remarks that by living the poem, I mean living a life you can feel the poems come out of, or living the given world the poem has brought you to understand by way of writing the poem. The trying of Bernardo's poems is part of his poetics of living the poem. Genuine reality refuses to be ignored in these poems, and this is what makes his poems essential. Bernardo currently serves as editor, creative nonfiction editor of Indiana Review. He is the 2023 Poetry Prize winner for Third Coast, and the 2023 winner of Vera Meyer Strube Award for Academy of American Poets. He has words forthcoming in Massachusetts Review, West Branch, Washington Square Review, African American Review, and Belvoir Poetry Journal. Check out his website, bernardowade.com. And please welcome to the Splice stage, Bernardo Wade.
Can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. All right. You know, I'm gonna say thank you to Sean, because that deep cut of going into Callaloo and finding that motherfucker did his homework. I appreciate it. All right, I got 30 minutes. Hopefully don't get bored. Let's read some poems. I like to talk about my poems a little bit. Yeah, so this one, I got this fancy residency about this time last year, and the only requisite was I had to write a poem about being there to perform at this thing afterwards. And I didn't like writing there because it was beautiful, so I just walked around all day. And this poem came from me and my friend kind of walking through the woods in Colorado. So this is called Mountain Baptism, and it's dedicated to my friend Elle. Oh, I forgot to put my shades on. I don't know if this makes me cool or look more like a poet, but I'm trying, you know. All right, Mountain Baptism for Elle. You led me to a wood so slick with mud, I didn't make it 100 feet before you noticed my face twist toward my Nike Dunks. Then, like a mother might nudge a child into a school's gate, I felt you, oh so gently, touch me on the meat of my left arm, right above the elbow, not saying a word, which was probably smart, as I'm known to argue about the gall of white folks, leading other folk on adventures their black friends might suck their teeth at, might say something like could never, or more specifically, as one of my friends actually did, responding to a pic from this very trip said, your white side is showing. And I bit my tongue, so to speak, braving the snowy mud as I followed you on our ascent, which was a nice view of your hiking boots showing off with each step the ease at which you could outpace me. And I chalked it up because I'm prideful to your lifetime of weaving through these white aspens that I can tell you love as you keep pointing to their crowns, likening their new leaves to a woman's lashes. And when we reached the trail's clearing, you looked back and I got it. The earth revealed its shoulders and felt like a god came down, careless and gifted, dragging their fingers across the sky. With the imagination one finds tacked to a preschool wall, while the sun soaked our limbs warm, I, still cautious, wonder why you turned down what I would never consider a trail, but I followed. Trying to be peaceful, trying to forget about the boys you jokingly called Hitler Youth, as they tailed our car with their dog and four-wheeler down a road named Oh Be Joyful. And I could hardly catch my breath. Thankful you stopped next to a river that had a lot to say. Its current, a roaring contralto, reminded me of the bridge from Mahalia Jackson's rendition of How I Got Over, with the occasional branch snapping like a hand clap from a Baptist choir. And I asked you, as you took off your shoes and socks, if you're getting in, imagining how, if that current took you away, I couldn't save you. And I had much to explain to whatever authority questioned me about foul play. But I assured you, and if you assured me, you'd be okay. You'd done this before. You called it a mountain baptism, slowly slipping your feet in the water, and patiently I sat like a father, worried his daughter messed around and joined a cult, paying homage to some snow god that promises an abundance of fresh powder, knowing for me, that might mean cocaine. Though for you it means winter's been fruitful, but we're on the backside of May, so the water you're in was just snow minutes ago, and you gave me a look that somehow seduced me to bare feet. Before I knew it, my toes were in. And you're filming me saying, oh my God, that's miserable. You're impressed, I think, more with yourself, because despite the voices from my childhood telling me I'm going to catch cold, I'm not mad or scared. I'm smiling. I'm gonna keep it real with y'all a little bit. First of all, thanks for coming, because you know, we spent long fucking hours in front of nothing, basically. And so anyone would show up and hear a poem is kind of a beautiful thing. I picked the poems tonight, not so much out of maybe what I thought was my best poems, but more out of sentiment. These are the poems I like and remind me of my life and being in New Orleans and growing up here. So that doesn't say they're not, they're fine, but that's what guided me. Specifically in this poem, which I do like. It's called Self-Portrait as a Black Walnut Tree. And this is this poem about growing up uptown in Gertown with my family. Mr. George, a white man, a now deceased man, we moved next door to after the divorce. He'd leave me and my sister a few dollars allowance, along with a note that said something like, love your mother, be good to her. And I tried by learning how to mow the lawn, but this was only after he waved me down one morning, flailing his cane like he was rounding up a flock of pigeons, rising it high in the air as if he could poke holes in the sky and bless us all in New Orleans with rain, because it was so damn hot. They'd warned us, the whole city, to stay inside and protect ourselves. And though we had a couple of window units, we just couldn't afford to turn them on. I went into the shed with Mr. George, then 80, shuffling in his boat-sized New Balances, directing me past 60 years of rusted golf clubs, yard signs, and old tools to pull out the mower that wouldn't work, till we loosened the grip of the machine's rust with my sweat. The motor's endlessly teasing of almost starting until it did. And then he taught me how to mow the lines, straight and carefully, as I still do, today in the backyard in Bloomington. With the black walnut tree tucked in the corner of the yard, it leaves so much fragrant tennis ball-sized nut, which looks like a lime of sorts, but harder and denser. They like to hide in the tall grass, and when I roll over them, they shoot out the machine, spilling their little brains all over the yard, spreading toxins on the other species that didn't evolve allelopathy, a term I can't pronounce, but I've learned just recently means self-preservation, complicating the relationships they have with their neighbors. All right, so this is, I wore this hat on purpose. We're entering the jazz portion. You know, I just got off a plane from LA like literally 7 minutes ago. And I felt if I would have had more time, I would have played with this. So, you know, maybe before we start, like everyone kind of close their eyes and just try to think of a jazz song. Or walking down and feeling one, I don't know. But we got two poems that kind of, yeah, are, you know, about jazz. This one's called Mercy, 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 and it takes the title from a Cannonball Adderley song where he begins in this little intro where he says, sometimes we're not prepared for adversity. Before the bar stool, toes dangled with sweet inhibition. Don't mind me. Blow the dust off the seat. Look how the roof leaks moonlight, how flowers sprout from the mouth when you speak. It'll teach you to choke down beauty and be discreet. Don't tell Daddy, says Judas, sucking ice. He laughs when the cat walks his horn back. To forgive is to retreat. He's got a God up his sleeve. The blood of 1,000 juke joints flow into one glass, and he swallows it. He don't believe his rumors. This is how the missionary lost his religion. A cannonball fell out the rock-bottom sky. When it landed, the night knelt, and from its knees it said, mercy, mercy, mercy. Yeah. So this next one has a note. It says to be read alongside Dexter Gordon's I Guess I'll Hang My Tears Out to Dry. So ideally, I kind of had this vision where I would do these series of poems that you would put these songs on and read them while you listened. I've only got one so far, but more on the way. But this one is accompanied by that standard. It's a standard that Dexter Gordon did. And it's a dedication to my friend R, who's my professor, who we hang out all the time and play basketball and shit. I walked up on him one day, and he's usually a really happy guy, and he was really distraught, and found out one of his friends had died, and this is kind of a poem about that. Me being like, shit, because we're not balling, but damn, this sucks, and all those complicated feelings that happened in a few minutes. It's for my friend R, who tells me again she's gone, this time in a way that pauses our dap long enough. I feel his sweaty palm. Though I didn't know her, something cousin to grief emerges. He grins, ugly and nervous. Like teeth spit from a dream, I fall forever, it seems, into a chair, catty corner to where the dusk, with its vast dying light, finds his garden. So lush and alive, I'm thankful, I think, for what's softened between us. He steers. I can't remember the little laugh she made when, and though we're still on the back porch, I can almost smell the curry wafting out the Trini joint in Flatbush. I imagine a water glass spilling belly laughs to the floor as someone yells, "That's my jam!" And now it's a party. Because that one friend who pretends to be bashful finally gets up, joining all the emphatic hips and snapping fingertips swaying toward Aisha, who, knowing every word, sings from the deep parts of herself. And I'm still not sure if my ass ever hits the seat or why I hear a saxophone elegizing the air before he says, "Look," and points to a hummingbird floating against the blue blush of night, barely visible like an apparition we sometimes believe is a friend who, new to the afterlife, might visit, giving us a glimpse of how their light slips into our own small horizons. All right, we're gonna enter love, which means pain. Yeah, this is a poem about a love of mine and I on our first date in Paris, basically. Though it's not, we like to make up shit as poets, so it's not direct. I had to make it more interesting than my life. This is called "The Delirium Has Its Way." On the cobblestone steps near the sign, you stuffed your hands in my jacket, kissed me, and whispered "Enchanté." Faint with apois and cheap burgundy, I said you tasted like "S'il vous plaît." I knew little of the language. This was the problem with Paris. The delirium has its way with us who need to feel love. Is a dim want compared to what it takes to love. It takes faith and gives the mind new gods to shake. I followed an absence in the air. Was it your shadows down there under the bridge conspiring with the river, the rats, and the moonlight talking shit? Please tell me you weren't with the man from the bar who gave you his eyes before he left. In that city, flickering with desire, I couldn't help it. I asked where you went. A cherry burning through the dark. You held the cigarette so cool, like Le Petit Mort between two fingers. Everything there was an erotic wound from the Middle Ages. Those catacombs, buried beneath the lights, know the madness of silence. What could I do? You were still on my breath. I kissed you again and again and again, and you said nothing. So I call this our breakup poem. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. This is called "The Angel of Farewell," and it has a dedication after John Keane. Great poet. Won the National Book Award, I think, last year. The Angel of Farewell. I wait to winter's reply. In mid-gate, the snow as it falls shapes this silence, and I'm afraid, again, of today. The angel grinds her teeth on empty bottles, covering the dead grass, shimmering the earth with what I can't say. We were young and newly naked, mangled in precarity. That Paris room reeked of love like spring dew. So I wrote a poem about the eagerness of May, an elegy for naivety now tucked away. Remember, I used words like perfect and fate, yet it's here. I lie next to you, tracing the words "I'm sorry" over your lips, listening to a stack of plates tremble inside your breath. Each morning, the day begins in my mistakes. right, I picked this one because it's about a house on Spain Street, so it's like right down the street. It's my last love-ish poem. It's called Before She Blooms. Not long after she moved out, my ex biked over to destroy the plants on the front porch, leaving them every few feet or so in little explosions of terracotta and soil, with their root systems exposed, almost naked. The maypop, the spiderwort, the birds of paradise, and others I never learned the names of. She left there, in the road, at the mercy of passing cars. Only the wisteria, burrowed into earth, with its poisonous leaves and sturdy neck, withstood her blind anger, which I knew is the type of heirloom she hoped wouldn't blossom. It was me, not the plants, who deserved this. It's similar to how we pulled the elephant ear from the plant bed the previous summer. It takes a special devotion to rid oneself of an invasive species. A week later, when we woke up, did a little blow, and made love before we costumed for Fat Tuesday, I found her, outside watering the wisteria. Might be another year before she blooms, she said, like she knew. Years later, she wouldn't return to see its purple flowers bruising the sky, the vine now strangling the house. All right, we're gonna stay on our New Orleans shit. This feels mellow, I like it. Ow! Yeah, see? Not even a good one. Terrible, actually.
You're welcome.
Ow! That's what you sound yeah, here's another one. This poem here is, if you don't like it, it's fine. I did something on purpose where I gave myself kind of, poets like to prove dumb shit to themselves. Like, let me do this because it's hard, But I tried to take these kind of cliche or commonly used words in New Orleans culture, probably like overly, prolific in culture here, and say, hey, let me try to do this, fresh. And I don't know, maybe it worked, maybe it didn't. But that was the goal. That was the goal. This is called Faith or Another Way of Being. Sober. My imagination, still picking at wounds, spots in the Sunday second line, my father dressed like a perfect poor boy with hot sauce bereft of bank teller pleasantries. He needs napkins. He drips on the same. Tell him I forgive the generation that moonwalked across the yellow brick road. I found the Tin Man humming a few of my favorite things at the daiquiri shop. A man with no heart must find another's drum to beat. Kendrick Lamar said, I got daddy issues. That's on me. A child holds a match to the gasoline of my dreams. Sometimes he's the fear of falling asleep. He's in my feelings. You ever negotiate with an apparition? Putting a thing to rest is not a sign of defeat. My father's epistemology for motherfucker, for drunk, for junkie. I make holy with a rosary strung together with Mardi Gras beads. I ask God to throw me something, mister. By something, I mean mercy. One more daddy poem, I call him. So my dad moved to California during the pandemic. And the week before, Ida happened, or like maybe days before. It was kind of weird. No, I don't know. Sometime after he moved to California, Ida happened. And I don't know if did a trip. I can't remember what happened, but I remember seeing him and him, really rejoicing about not, probably in the first time in however many years, not being in the line of a hurricane in New Orleans. There's a poem about that. It's called In the Wake of Ida. When my father calls, I tell him the damage. How the bricks, so many of them now in the street, lie prostrate, faithful to the earth again. How Ida darkened the sky, throwing light at our feet like doubloons, until she swept the city beneath her eye, trapping us like the tree limb that fell through the window into the kitchen. He pines. I know he'll take this as a sign. Now in LA, he says, look at God, like a man spared. I want to say, look, you are gray, the world is drowning, and I am afraid. Can't you see these ruins, your mistakes? Instead, I say, I love you. And notice the dawn's first light breaks. Such innocence. This is the real madness with a hurricane. The next day, the sun comes out like a parent, like nothing ever happened. I saw a few poems. What? Okay. I have to cut it. All right, this is a poem about getting fucked up in New Orleans after Katrina. I'll leave it at that. It's a requiem for someone who's not with us anymore. Requiem for Guy. That was his name, right? After Katrina, we broke into a FEMA trailer, a haven filled with burn holes scattered like little graves. I watched you wrestle the TV antenna, smiling because for at least a few hours, we summoned the soft hum that sweet talks bravado off the brow, sedating our baby-faced resentments with one another. What did we know of friendship but its malice? Once a week, we robbed the first to fall asleep, reprieved, inevitably, by the need to forgive the other's suffering. This kind of love persists, watching a man drift from life into its seam, choking down breath, maybe in a dream where junkies dance on a blank slate. We were joyful when you'd get a call, hopping in your girlfriend's car to go somewhere else and smoke cigarettes, till we had more small pills staring back from our palms. Today, one of my students told me, "You're my guy." But I thought of you, and how many sticky afternoons we tried to forget our names, handing them back to God so we could rest. When I got the call, I knew he had refused to give yours back. All right, I have two more. I think I have two more. I'm just going to read it. I'll take this one out. How am I on time? Am I tripping?
You got as much time as you need.
All right, I'm going to read 3 more poems. Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right. More New Orleans shit, I promise. Maybe I should own this New Orleans poet thing.
Yeah.
This is called "This Shit Is Not Interesting." Henry likes this poem. If I can read it right, I hope I get it right this time. Splice is hard. Splice is a motherfucker. No, I'm gonna tell you because these guys are judgmental. Right? Look, at least I keep my snobbery in private, Like, they keep this shit all on the street. It's so private. See, I knew a heckler would come out.
You're heckling us.
Yeah.
You're welcome. You know, oh, like you don't like the attention. All right, back to poems, I'm sorry. All right, this is called This Shit Is Not Interesting. It's pretty self-explanatory. Sometimes when it's this dark, I light a match and let it burn my fingertips. I light a match and let it burn my fingertips while I watch the flame. This is what I know about memory. It flickers when it feels like it. I've tried to forget that bare-knuckle night I left work, thanking Nick for the quality of his daiquiris. He had a toothy smile. He's gone now. A story for another time. I knew I should have stayed for another drink, but I left to find Slim, for the achy chills crept their way down the back of my neck. Here, I'd like to remind you of the time Richard Pryor lights a match. You know, at the end of Live on the Sunset Strip, he says, "What is that?" Richard Pryor running down the street, and boom. He's taught us to admire another's defeat. People love their boogeymen to step into the light, laugh at the first stone thrown, paying for a seat. This shit is not interesting. To the ones who know, off stage, Pryor danced on the teeth of his deceits, slipping into spells of God, please. And I, who'd disappeared that week, got her text and flew across town because I knew this time she was serious. She'd thrown my shit behind the dumpster, a place I won't soon forget. Hold on. Let's say a prayer for the brothers who don't make it. God, bless those whose hot blood finds a blue light, knives through the night. Amen to the men who bare teeth, who fight. Thus, when I turned down the one-way on Dersenois Street, the same street 9 years later, I mourned a beloved killed by a drunk driver, a driver who could have been me. I saw those cops and I thought, run, but then thought, gun. So instead, I pulled over, thinking, fuck. I'm in for it, all right. Knew it was my turn to boogeyman into the light. So I lifted my hands just right. Fingers spread so wide, you might have thought I was a flame. I imagined the match. Prior lights for the crowd. Its sulfur smelled like good night. When I heard 12 close the car door, I felt the weight of Slim's package. Enough for a bid. Wedged in my waistband, hidden, unlike my belongings strewn about the street. Then he said, move and you're done. Before I blinked, the click of cuffs snapped against my wrist. He pulled my shirt, just so, and I felt my waistband flick, fell from my lips. I watched the little bag of powder drift between me and the 12 with fire. When he smiled, I heard a round of applause. Pryor holds the match, and I swear, I see him flinch. I wasn't surprised when I saw resisting arrest on those multicolored sheets. Ain't but a few hours of peacocking before I felt that familiar ache. Cold sweats, jonesing, a yearn for death filled my stomach as I crouched down near a man who, after 30 minutes of complaining about his baby mama's expired tags, noticed the animal writhing. I lie so childlike, I can almost taste my mother's gumbo on Christmas Day, and how a soft blanket might feel against my skin. I know. This shit is not interesting. unless you know the warmth that comes when a stranger takes his coat and covers your body on a jailhouse floor. All right, so I read this poem a month ago, and I've changed it since, so I don't know it by heart anymore. If you don't like the changes, please don't tell me. We've all been there, right? All right, this is called 10 Minutes. This is actually me leaving that time I got arrested. The speaker. 10 minutes before they released me from Orleans Parish Prison. I was moved to a holding cell beyond the cacophony of the other cages, where a boy, rock bottom with the floor, sat working his tongue, moving the blood from his lip down his throat. I saw in his eyes how, locked up, pain is the only real God. Then I noticed the latex gloves, filled and tied with what I assumed was days' worth of his waste. It was a stench, so wrenching. I wanted to hold him. No, I'm sorry. That's not real. I wanted to alleviate something in me. We both knew he, still as stone, was desperate for the last decent thing, to be left alone. All right, this is my last poem. Thanks for bearing with me. This is called My Pops Says He Wants His Popeyes Hot. I have a weird affinity for Popeyes. I mean, it's maybe a fetish. No, it's not. Well, that would be hurt. That would hurt right now. Anyways, my pop says he wants his Popeyes hot. I take Exchange Alley past the parking lot of the Monteleon, where Shorty, for years, our babysitter, valets cars. And tonight, as I cross the street, he throws me a half-hearted salute like he didn't just last week burn my teenage years when he confessed his fetish for women impregnated by other men. I nod back, making my way toward Canal, wondering why back at home my sister sits, not doing shit. Well, I gotta get the dinners, walk the dogs, make the groceries, or visit the queer little man down at the Whitney, who gives me ugly looks when I hand him my pops' checks. I'm not mad. It's just sometimes I get tired of my own 2 feet. Or I've grown nervous, in a way, of the quarter's less lit side where people act a fool right on the street. Like the man I saw over there, near the Mexican joint that's never open, playing with himself. He looked over his shoulder, right at me, hopeful I might give him the satisfaction of a soft eye. But, like I've been taught, didn't look down or too up, but straight like a man with no question marks in his mouth. I stayed cool, embarrassed for him, so I crossed the alley, knowing if he followed, I'd be ready. And just the thought of this, if I'm honest, makes my eyes hurt. And reminds me of the blood, just a little bit further down this alley, that followed like a shadow the boy who met a knife inside the Burger King. How when the doors swung open, the screams from inside followed him out, as they seemed to open wider his eyes that searched everywhere just before they found mine. And I wanted to run because it felt like he pried open within me. A feeling I like to keep shut, found what my pops calls my sweet side. Stuck his head in and begged, please, make it stop. Then he fell back, reaching towards something I believe only he and I could see, because for a moment, the alley went bright with what looked like great wings, and I thought, thank God, this is a dream. But no, 12 had pulled up, and it was their lights, whipping up the walls, coming down, brightening the faces of those who'd swarmed out like termites, circling the heavy air of the crime scene. The boy, the blood, fell through time because I blinked and was somehow waiting in line, like nothing ever happened, like I am now, at the Popeyes, thinking, dang, I forgot to change. Bernard is here, working the fry, his big toothy smile, beautiful and sly in that way that makes whatever dish he serves a little less cruel, almost okay. He screams, look, Catholic boy here. 5 minutes on the chicken. Tell your daddy you're gonna be quick today. And his co-workers smirk as he makes prayer hands and points to my shirt. It's khaki, too tight fit, part of a Jesuit uniform, uncommon for the midnight shift. He says, shouldn't you be studying or something? Which is another way of saying, damn, my pops be tripping too. Or, I'm gonna show you love because I know this ain't for you. Or, look at you, trying to act hard in that tight ass shirt. And before I can get tight, or at least look as though, he's distracted by a group of girls just stumbled in, carrying those grenade drinks that smell like the sewers on Bourbon. That's it, thank you.
All right, y'all, one more time for Bernardo Wade. Next up, we have Kimberly Ann Southwick. In one poem from Kimberly Ann Southwick's debut, Orchid Alpha, which is for sale here tonight, mind you, the speaker is taught to smash the TV when the reception sucks. In another, the speaker desires the lover, take the remote from me and switch the television off, thus considering a gentler alternative. In yet another poem, the television reception is fuzzy and your brain is a glazed donut. But before we scarf down our pop brownies and or grab our sledgehammers, consider the book as a kind of programming. The televisions in Orchid Alpha have as innumerable of channels as any satellite network, but certain shows do take the primetime slot. One such show is that of technological inundation, the dependency on which can leave us rewiring our very thoughts. Important stuff to a poet. The world is populated by phones and selfies and internet whimsy, by, quote, laptops with their sick, milky glow, or when stuck on a rural property without Wi-Fi, the speaker checks her, quote, email again and again, resisting until they break. Sure, we are addicted to the glow, eyeballs of moth, but this also hems along an addiction to content, which is to say, one another. Another show is revolving around what might be called an Adonichian desire, after Kim Adonichio. This can be felt in a title such as, Put Your Goddamn Arms Around Me Already. At times, poems flash a desire for the self, others for hot guys with ripped muscles, or on the other end of things, how tight, quote, how tight it fits your pirate body, referring to the jacket shared with a married woman after an intimate moment. Others for a kind of alternative to memory, considering, quote, when there's nothing left to remember, there's always something to imagine. Even fear of intimacy serves as its own kind of intimacy in those post-coital moments with, quote, his dick, long and sleepy, against your leg. Or sometimes in the form of comical wild images such as a piano with 88 dicks as keys. Consistently, the poems of Orchid Alpha, as alluded to in the latter word, address the paradoxes of power systems, gendered and otherwise, as summarized in the lines, I want to be taken advantage of, but with my own consent. For the speaker is, quote, one who is thrilled to be tied to the back of this chair. We want to take it take it on our own terms, they seem to say, manifesting in, quote, a desperate, unmoving nod only the fucked can cop. Finally, at the tail end of the prime time is grounding the poems in the regional aptitude and abruptness, which is to say, the very ground we stand on. Reading Orchid Alpha, it's almost as if you can revise the nonce fortune cookie game, where instead of ending each fortune with, in bed, at the end of any Southwick's lines here with, in the South, certainly a place can suddenly bum rush a poem, how the bayou rushes during the pitch of a new winter moon in this, the new native South. The creep of vine and wash of moon is ever present as the 5G network pulsing through our fingertips and the data they so often exude, similar to the recurring image of octopi that slide their way across these poems as well, calling to mind the feminine hydra, which one speaker reminds us that etymologically means the embrace. For better or worse, we're of this world. This myth of mess calls to mind a line from Tracy Fouad. I want to be so messy, just not in a way that hurts other people. I think the speakers within Orchid Alpha would agree as they pilfer the depths of themselves where they can, quote, reach inside and pull out a moat, an axe, an acorn. The cartoonish hammer space therein offers an alternative mode parallel to a stuffy Richard Braithwaite's 17th century description of a pirate. He was never acquainted with much civility. The sea hath taught him other rhetoric. He cannot speak low. The sea talks so loud. I got this quote from The Many-Headed Hydra, Sailors, Slaves, Commoners, and the Hidden History of Revolutionary Atlantic by Peter Limbaugh and Marcus Rediker, a revisioning of the organization of the maritime state from above and the self-organization of sailors from below. I swear this is going somewhere. Better in the word of the scholars themselves. As the strong hands of Braithwaite's sailors in the Atlantic zoned for the accumulation of capital, they began to join with others in faithfulness or solidarity, producing a maritime radical tradition that also made it a zone of freedom. The ship thus became both an engine of capitalism in the wake of the bourgeois revolution in England and a setting of resistance. They say ship, I say Orchid Alpha. Like the cable TV of this book, the Hydra has many speakers, but is connected to one body politic. Is one of the final poems in the book, the last cetacean stranding, warns, capitalists beware, new money is the tooth of a whale. Finally, lifting off of this, here's a quote from Alice Notley's Women in Poetry. The sons of bitches in Washington and Wall Street and LA are still sons, and rich ones, admitting a few exactly like-minded bitches, and worse, still self-perpetuatingly powerful in the tiny glassed-in bubble that contains all the master controls. Very few people, male or female, seem capable of making a life that doesn't conform to the patterns that so benefit these tyrants. Finally, we are allowed to write, hysterically pile up pages in a dead-end world, using dead-end forms of articulation, written on dead trees. Everything must change, and very, very soon. Women in poetry is a joke. Where is the world? Where is the first world? We must find it as soon as possible. Lucky for us, Southwick tonight will be our tour guide and has reminded us that, quote, the window spells night like a television portal. So let's step into this poltergeist, the technicolor hinterland, the poetry of Kimberly Ann Southwick in the South.
Thank you so much. How do I follow that and that? Oh my God. So my book came out last month and it's been exciting. So I'll read you some poems from it first. You already heard some pieces of them, so that's cool. Man, I'm nervous. I'm being good. A caress of the thigh when what I want is for him to take the remote from me and switch the television off. His hand might turn my face towards his, and I could instruct here with adverbs, but the telling ruins the action, makes it feel fake or forced. So I seek the high, pout, and circumstance elsewhere. $10 on the Birds Dallas game, doubling down the dealer showing a jack of diamonds, being the drunkest or at least drunk, but always last to leave the bar, preferably flanked by two men, one handsome like sin. This isn't me, high on the roof, post-duplex, bewitching New York cabs, a man I just met at my side. This isn't static, breaking up the shore sounds, pacing the pier like at its end, swimming out to sea seems only right. I don't seek fear, or I'd open the window at the sound of cats angry in the rain. I don't seek pain, or I'd grab the pot's hot handle too close without cursing. This is me yelling. Useless ransom, wet tail hanging limp. Nude comma descends invisible staircase. Groan of the boat's motor, water, torture. Promise it won't sink. Promise the gator won't lounge like an agile green pool float. Promise. Snap the river, the rocks. Everyone wearing bikinis or shorts standing around. Send miles through sharp pixels like they'll shrink. The pink-lipped girl mists a kiss to which one of us? Through the screen. I mouth back, miss you. Emoji heart burst, cloud the sky over, thunder me home like home is close and warm, like you say it feels inside me, full circadian moon, summer to blame. So Trembling Pillow published my book, and Megan had like an open, I don't know what she does now, but she did something where like you could send your book for free, and I was very tired of like paying to send my book to get it rejected. But you had to have like more pages than I was like used to putting in my book. So I like threw a bunch of poems in here, so it's just funny the poems that wound up in here. A lot of these were poems that I wrote when I lived in Lafayette, well I lived in Brookridge, right outside Lafayette when I was in grad school there. And most of the ones I pulled in were ones that I had written like before I moved down there that just kind of fit. One of my friends, I hope all of you that are poets have a friend like this, was really helpful being like, no, like this is a book. Like all of these go together somehow. And you were good at that too. I wish you were also there for me during that. I was like, they're just poems. I don't know how they work. Anyway, so this is actually the last poem I wrote that made it into the book. And I also got the title from it, so that was cool how that happens. That's my story. Suck it in. Oh, and I almost wore the shorts that I'm talking about in the first couple lines of this poem tonight, but then I didn't. Alas, maybe some other time. The pulse of my orchid alpha, its petaled claws, is why I look so good in these shorts, meant for someone 10 years younger than I turned earlier this year on a Monday. When your birthday falls on a Monday, give the year up. When I think of how easy it was for him to draw me into his web, I think of myself as the spider, waiting in a mess of sticky silk. The way he asked, "Do you like that?" so quiet and wrong in my ear still rings me out. How he sounded so relaxed on the phone, disorienting at first, to hear his voice without his body stalwart next to mine in the field. How hard I tried to listen to the way the music and sky cut out the shape of me, but how all my attention pivoted towards the frame of him, or its lack. The dogs growl at each other here, night spills over into tomorrow. The stems I dream are thorned and tall, the bitch in me trampling fields of them. I like put all these tabs so my poems would be easy to find, and like they're not. It's not helping. I did write the page numbers. Put your goddamn arms around me already. Oh, and so some of these I wrote like in New Orleans. There's nothing New Orleans-y about them except like maybe some place names or whatever. But this one and the next one, I made a note to tell you all that since I am here now with you. Put your goddamn arms around me already. We stand rockside, the city wearing its boated water like a dress. If he hasn't yet, the small tide laps the shore. Is he content with his octopus arms wild at his sides? My breath tempos to the pulse of the current. Solstice covers me like a velvet cape. Back home, our front door is red and open. We swim through to Linda's where the brownies aren't working and the dogs are fighting and everyone is old, or at least older than we are. Everyone repeats the same question, the one you've already answered. Like, we're on the Jersey boardwalk where guys in wet shorts ask about your tattoo and show you theirs, and I just want soft serve. Here, when we reach the edge of land alone, we find only cordgrass and marsh. I am the queen of cups, hair braided and pinned. The water snakes my feet, and I'm considering starting over like it would set me free. But this gluten-free scone isn't life-changing. I'm still hungover, and if not him, someone dismal else. Instead, I cherish squatting to piss outside, yelling something drunk. Is it Bourne or Pontchartrain? I don't know. How fast we drove through the 4 a.m. city streets, stupid, breathless speed. Instead, I'm a helium balloon, reflecting sky, thrilled to be tied to the back of this chair. You're right, I don't want to know. That closed mouth kiss in the dark hall, your hands teaching my body what it will miss, the pink pearl I found in a 25-cent oyster, the rare note of surprise that pitches your voice a half octave up. I'm sorry to have even asked. The fire, the ferns, how jealousy blooms, then burns and keeps blooming, a three-headed flower cutting ink sharp into my chest. I wear a low-cut shirt to show her how beautiful my tits are, especially compared to hers. I don't wash my hair for a week to show her how I woke up like this is supposed to look. I am nice and ask questions at her panel and take notes with a pencil in the back of the book I'm reading, but really I'm roaring, beware, though in all caps, and I mean of me. I can't let go, this flower on fire, and I'm buried in its pollen and red hot petals, and you learned me hypocrisy's speechless merits. So if I'm scared but hoping, the pearl was a sign you'd fall back in love with me when it's all for show, for holy, holy, go fuck myself, and I drown in this flora. No, I don't forgive you, this fire, this flower, that don't tell me it didn't burn you down to kiss. All right, I made a note so I wouldn't forget to thank people. Thank you to Bernardo for reading first. Also, for being so good. That I was paying attention the whole time instead of worrying about what I was gonna read. Thank you to Sean, Henry, and Rodrigo for having me. I really appreciate it. This is awesome. I'm gonna read some new poems, not just from my book, obviously, because they're on this paper, which is actually pink. But you can't tell because there's this red light here, but I'm telling you so you know. Some of them are sad. Yeah, that's my preface. So sorry. This first one's really sad. Well, I think it's sad. Maybe you'll be like, it's not sad. Well, okay. Finally, when I am driving, it's the dead dog, tan and white, and the roadside trash and yellow flowers. The way the storm cloud cuts a line across an otherwise nothing blue sky. Not the knot of blood and cells, or the baby, or really the not baby, with its no heartbeat stalled somewhere inside me, like it's not over for us yet if it just stays put, holding up the rest of my life, like, put him here, they say. I mean, the not baby says, trying to get me to laugh now that I have let myself cry finally. Over the simplicity of wildflowers bent towards disappearing light, and the insensible death of a dog I don't know. The storm cloud waits until I am home to empty itself, and my dogs, with their graceless breathing, run back inside, and we wait together for sun. Orleans tarot deck? There's a Philly tarot deck, and I wrote a poem. This poem's about one of the cards in there. There should be one if there isn't. It should be good too. It shouldn't suck. All right, someone do that if there isn't one already, or if the one that does exist sucks. The Lovers. In this tarot deck are Rodin's The Kiss, or in truth, Philly's Marble Replica. And now I'm on about what discerns statue from sculpture, how perhaps I should be drawn to the thinker instead, if only for its initial name, or how it existed as part to whole until it caught the eye of the foundryman, then the artist himself. But the kiss emblemizes the city for me, despite its duplicity. The original in France, the entwined lovers I know made only after Rodin's death. Another of my ova dies today. I want to bloody my lips with it, kiss or recreated in plaster, terracotta, bronze, give it life eternal. I want to know more of the swell of eggs left clustered inside me and waiting. Not what happens when one is chosen to perish or produce, but what they are like now. What happens before the kiss, not what the kiss may prefigure. Not how over time bronze tarnishes, turns suddenly a slick green, a color we fail to notice, especially when it's spring and everywhere. The owl is easier, the moth. Take the day off and call your senators, your state and federal representatives. Being a citizen is a full-time job in the soonest apocalypse, the kind we survive and have to work to keep surviving, the only kind worth romanticizing. Come at me for ignoring the actual pending end of days, the tornadoes and their new pathways, how winters are longer and harder, even though the glaciers melt, the globe warms. Has there been an uptick in miscarriage, or do we just feel more comfortable talking about them? It's easier to consider the plight of the northern spotted owl, the most endangered species of owl here. It's easier to consider the moth. Turn out the lights, trash the useless bug zapper, don't let them fly towards a not sun. Have you received an invitation to my post-apocalypse survivor camp yet? What skill will you offer at the gate? Or do you have weapons? I always seem to lack someone with weapons. 2 guns are not enough. 2 dogs are not enough. Dogs shouldn't be weapons, but to earn their keep, I rename them Lancelot and Gunner. Why don't weapon names sound feminine to my dog naming ear? Do you have basic medical training? Does it sound like I'm staffing a starship? The baby's skill is innocence, light, future. It's one thing to hold a gun, I tell her, another to instruct someone to shoot. I guess it's Mother's Day tomorrow, so I'm going to read a poem about being a mom. We are counted. That's not why I chose it to read, but I was like putting things in my car and a random person walking down the street was like, Happy Mother's Day! And I was like, aw, thank you. Weird assumption, I don't know, maybe she saw like something in my like bags of diapers, unused diapers in my car, or maybe it was just a guess. A couple years ago, that would have pissed me off. We are counted. We thread blackberries first, easy. Their shapes and sizes similar. She needles the pulp, a necklace of juice. We count aloud, but she skips 4, 5. Her voice a proud, small word. We count clouds next, harder, some blur together in the sky, different shapes, different sizes, but we persevere. Each fluff gets a number. I don't ask her to count the shoes as I help them onto her feet, but she says 1, 2, then stops as though she understands. Mothering is a candle that seems so tall when it's lit, hot and heavy with wax. Mothering is a room full of uncountable, unwashed dishes, a girl with soapy hands, squeezing a sponge onto the floor and smiling. It's funny because Megan accepted the book before the pandemic, and then there was the pandemic and a million other things that happened in both of our lives. So I'm so far from all these poems, but also that's good. Not that many of you have been to my readings before, but for a while I was just reading the same poems over and over again because they were like the ones that everyone seemed to like hoping somebody was new. But now they're like all new again, so when I like read my hits, it's not like, you know, I'm giving an encore and I'm a famous rock band, and y'all are like, why didn't you play that one? And then I play it at the end. Anyway, we're nearing the end, kind of. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna read a couple more from my book and then a couple other new ones. Salt Lamp Life. This is because somebody mentioned something earlier. You'll know who you are. I'm on this aloe plant life, this salt lamp life. My desk like a terrarium, a microcosm of sustainability. My planner, lake green and open to today's list of things to do. My laptop on and glowing its sick milky glow, open to what will distract me from that to-do list. My wallet is out and open, buying plane tickets I can't afford, to weddings I just can't miss. My cousin's fiance, he probably voted for someone I would not vote for, but still I buy the tickets, buy the two of them a beach chair and a cooler from their registry with money I don't have. We'll still cry at their wedding. I'm on this many multicolored pens life, this you didn't know there were this many sizes of Post-it note life, this apple-shaped paperclip holding me together life. My stapler isn't really a shark, and these books aren't going to read themselves, I know. And this other lamp with its pull chain and green hood was stolen from a library, for real. The stack of coasters, I swiped them unblemished from glossy bar tops in air-conditioned pubs when, with a smile and unmistakable South Jersey accent, I asked the guy in black mixing drinks to please get me some water, minimal ice. And after he acquiesced, I slid into near evening, let it wrap its thick arms around me like someone ripped was giving me a nice hug. Table savers snug in this actually vintage purse, wearing my not actually Prada sunglasses, and sliding through this humidity like a pearl-toed foot into any old bathtub. I like how this poem ends, even though I was not pregnant, like I thought maybe I was in the first stanza of this poem, because my next book is like all about being pregnant and then there being a pandemic. I had my baby in March 2020, so it's like rife with poetry because that was a crazy time for all of us and also a very crazy time for me. Anyway, so I like that this is the last one in my book because like maybe the speaker's pregnant, but no, in real life. But the speaker, we don't know, because that's just the speaker, right? Immaculate reception. The light is thickening behind the trees, and WebMD is, of course, saying all your symptoms together are a sign of pregnancy or death. And you're shouting, let them eat cake, who knows why, and batting shut the screen of your laptop, its apple glowing like the one Eve shared with Adam. Why do we say tempted, as though it were more than, fuck, this fruit is delicious and important? Why do we say forbidden, as if God didn't know all along he wanted us out of the garden? When you have no money, when you have less than no money, it's easy to blame God. When you have no God, it's easy to blame government. And when you have no government, find yourself a farm where you can work for your food and wash your own dish and your own fork, where you wait in line to wash them, and the men wash their own, and the women wash their own, and the kids wash their own too. And you think, even though this would not work on a global scale, it's working now. And you can see through the dark more clearly than ever before. You want your kid, if it's a kid, that's causing everything to taste sweet, and your lower back to hurt, and your brain to always want sleep. You want the kid to know that it's okay to have no money, no God, no government, that it's okay. Shh. It's going to be okay. 2 new ones, and then I'll read my last one from my book, and then I'll be done. I don't know why do we do that? Why are we like, don't worry, you only have to sit through this many poems. I do a NaPoWriMo every April, and that's when I write most of my poems these days, because as I mentioned, I have a child, and that makes doing my job and also doing the things I want to do very hard. But yeah, I have this, I call it my world famous NaPoWriMo group. It's not actually world famous. I just like to say things are world famous. I also do a world famous Super Bowl bingo. But yeah, so if you're a poet and you want to write a poem every day in April with us, or almost every day, let me know. I'll add you to my email list. I do it through Google Docs. It's the best one out there, in my opinion. All right. The guy at the free throw line shoots 66%. The announcers mean to say 2 and 3. They mean to say he wasn't the one the coach wanted holding the ball when the other team had to foul. They mean to say you were born with a reserve of eggs, and as you age, they age too. And as they age, they're exposed to everything you're exposed to. Doing coke in the Trocadero bathroom with Desi, smoking joints with Jordan and Guy in the middle of the frozen pond under the bridge in the Boston Gardens, breathing in whatever your Alabama neighbors are burning in their yard today. They mean to say no more than, but they say less than. All those years paranoid because how hormonal birth control makes you too much. All those years of condoms, all those years. They mean to say still. They mean to say chance. I'm so mean on anesthesia. An abortion could someday save my life. Look, I just want to get laid and not worry about having a nervous breakdown during the 2-week wait. My D&C saved my life. Mr. Prostol saved my best friend's life. 66% isn't great, so let's not take any chances. Tie me to the bed and let's just hold hands. You're probably going to break my heart. Hand me a poisoned apple, pierced with the arrow a song makes when you have heard it just the right amount of times. Let me know you're coming for the meat of me and more. Qualify. You're not the holly, but the irises, plentiful in spring, and then vanished without a kiss to wake me from this cursed sleep. I've got a 7-layer dip surrounding my heart, and the problem is, it's poor protection from the ubiquity of chips. Most people don't want to wade their way through the yuck of it, but here you come with a bag of tortillas and desire like wildfire sweeping through windy pines. I want you to. Calm my loud heart, its whispers of something I no longer have the emotional range for, and then so many question marks. Parsing my own words on a screen frosts my brain like a cookie and eats up my limited time. No, really, I don't have time for this. Spin me back to yesterday before you ignited something I didn't even know I still had kindling for. I'm spinning, and I've lowered my crossbow, but I can't wait for you to break my heart. Maybe it's always already broken. Maybe I'm used to this stalled down feeling I know is coming. The problem with wanting you is I want dessert and breakfast too, which leaves me starving for more. And meanwhile, you're humming that song like your mouth was made for it, content with the crumbs of me as you dash off into America. Maybe not surprisingly from the title, but I also wrote this one from like a New Orleans experience on my 33rd birthday, many years ago. 1. And hold on, gotta read the title first. Sigmund Freud and I are blackout drunk. 1. And I'm bathtubed and he's on the little shower mat, Indian style, smoking something I can't tell what. I'm focused on the water. How much hotter can it go? I touch the dial with a toe. The room is steamy and he's speaking a language I don't understand. It might be the language I normally understand. But I had too many James Joyces at the blues bar, and my face is a cracked mask, my brain underwater. Now he's laughing, and I'm trying to get out of the tub, but it's impossible. I examine my wounds, look away, stick my finger into the deepest, and dig until it hurts. 2. Super ego, the softest fern, summer warm and hammocked his this, and all the words jumbled together into a searchable map solved for X. Ego. Alabaster nightmares are the same color as when my blood liberated hits the air. I'm the self-appointed queen of every room I topple into, but I know no one knows that but me. Id. The worst parts of me are porcelain, are winter, are bark, are caviar, are succulent, are tiger-proof. The worst parts of me are filthy red, braised pearl, ruptured emulsion, erasable pixels. They're sterile, or iron, or hunted, or grown, but not from the seed. Thanks.
Keep it going for Kimberly and Bernardo. Our next Splice is June 10th. We have a couple great poets headed up for you, but before June 10th, there are several other readings. May has been packed full of poetry and literature readings in this city. You can check them out on LitWire.org, LITWIRE.org. Coming up, we have just to give you a schedule for the next week or so, Liminal Workshop Series is tomorrow, Making the Political Personal, a playwriting workshop. Then we have a Gold Room anthology launch on Monday night. Ow, I hear Michelle over there. Then there's the Twisted River Poetry Series, which is a rather new poetry series in town, Thursday, May 18th at the Old Araby Lighthouse, Records and Books. And then we have a Rubber Flower on Friday at the Mudlark Community Theater. Cameron, you're in the house? You're in the house? Where are you at, Cameron? Clark's over there. She's going to be reading. Then we also have another limited reading series Sunday, May 21st with a few cats at Always Lounge down the street.
Domino.
The Domino, so sorry, the Domino moved. All right, all right. Lots of events going on, lots of action in this city. It is blossoming, it is blooming. Thank y'all so much for being out here tonight. Give them another round of applause. Have a drink, tip your bartender, talk to the poets. Thank y'all so much for coming tonight. Cheers.